Hello there. I have missed you very, very much. The past 2 weeks I haven't filmed anything because I have been traveling. I went to visit my husband's family and we had such a wonderful time, and now I am back. It's November 20th today and I have not finished a single book in I have last night, so I'll talk about that. But November, because I have been traveling for most of November, it's been very busy, which is pretty typical for me lately, but it has been so wonderful. And I did do some reading while I was traveling, so what I want to talk to you guys about today is what I've been up to, what I've been reading, and my plans, my reading plans for the rest of the year, which is so crazy, the fact that it's nearly December. I can't believe that. So lately I have been working on a lot of things, a lot of really exciting things. I have been finishing up working on my novel, which is so crazy, and I'm moving on to very daunting steps with that. I've also been updating my website. Leon got his master's in computer science and he did a lot of web design, so these past couple of weeks he's been helping me redesign my website, make it look as professional as possible and as wonderful as possible, and really just showcasing my illustration, my writing, and me in a nice way, just to make my work and me look as professional and nice as possible, which has been really fun. I find a lot of enjoyment out of just any kind of form of creation, and bringing all of my work together and creating this website portfolio and making it what I envision in my mind and really showcasing what I've created. I just find it really fun. So I've been working on my website if you want to check that out. Hopefully I'm going to be publishing it, the new changes, I'll be publishing that soon. Besides that, I've also been working on illustrations for my portfolio and for my novel. And I've just been very busy with my separate work. I've also designed some new bookmarks for Etsy that it will be coming to my Etsy shop soon. Probably the beginning of December is when I will be getting them in the mail, and I'll upload them as soon as possible. So look out for a winter Etsy drop, which I'm hoping you'll be able to order and I'll be able to ship them before Christmas. International orders probably won't get delivered by Christmas, unfortunately. With my travel plans and being so busy, I wanted to have an Etsy drop before Christmas, like much earlier, or just before the holidays in general, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. But anyway, I've been working on Etsy, I've been working on my writing and my website and my portfolio and my illustrations and my writing, and so I've been doing a bunch of stuff, which has made my reading go a bit to the wayside, which is kind of difficult because reading is part of my job, and making these videos and talking about the books that I'm reading is part of my job, which I love so much. But I've been putting a lot of energy into those other things, not so much with reading, but I'm excited. Life is going to be calming down a lot more now, and I'm very excited to just sort of get back into a normal routine. So apologies for this big ramble. I just wanted to explain myself, explain why I was gone for a little bit, what I've been up to, and now I want to tell you about the books that I've been reading. So the book that I have been mainly reading, I started it before I left to visit Leon's family, and I was reading a bit in the airport, on the plane, and then I was also reading on the plane back home. I got home 2 days ago, and I love reading on planes. I would love to know how you feel about reading on public transportation. I can read in the car. It gives me a bit of a headache, but I don't mind reading in the car. I don't read in the car very often. I do love reading on trains and planes, though. There's just something so special about reading on trains and planes. And I remember so distinctly the books that I read when I read them on trains and planes. Like, I read Anna Karenina. I specifically read the train scene in Anna Karenina, which is one of the biggest scenes at the end of the book. I read that on the train, and I remember like the background noise of the train chugging along on the rail, and it made the whole scene come to life, which that's already such a powerful and visceral scene That was incredible. And I also read Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan on the plane back from visiting Emma the second time when I went to Canada to visit her, and I bought it at Chapters Indigo and I read it on the plane. It was only like a 59-minute plane ride, and I read most of the book because it's quite short on the plane ride back. So I just have such fond memories about reading books on planes. Anyway, the book that I have been reading that I read on my travels and on the plane is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is the book that we are reading for the Well Read Book Club in November for fantasy. I'm not the biggest adult fantasy reader, although I love magical realism. Magical realism is one of my favorite genres. My favorite genres to write and read. So this is an adult fantasy, which also kind of, I guess you could describe it as magical realism. It's a very interesting concept. We are following this main character, Adeline LaRue, or Addie. She was born around the 1700s, I forget which year exactly, in France, and I don't want to give too much away. Something happens where she makes this wish, and the wish actually comes true, and it greatly affects her life. And basically, when she meets someone, they remember their interaction with her, but the second that they lose sight of her, they completely forget her existence. And so she has this very difficult life of, and also this quite immortal life, of constantly meeting people and then them constantly forgetting her. So it's this very lonely existence that she has, and we follow her through the years. It goes back and forth in time. Mainly in France in the 1700s and then in New York City in 2014. And we kind of go back and forth and see how it began and how she's dealing with it in the more current times. And then what happens when something happens. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm really enjoying the concept. I think it's so interesting and the writing is really beautiful. There's one aspect of the story that I don't know if I'm having a problem with it per se, but I just feel like it could maybe have been done a little differently to make certain things have a greater impact. I'll talk a bit more about that in my November wrap-up when I finish this book. I'll write a whole book review and I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I'm really enjoying this so far. I would love to know if you are also reading this for the Well Read Book Club. I've been chatting with everybody in the group chat on Fable. If you want to join, you can join for free. There will be a link in the description to join the Well Read Book Club. In December, we are going to be reading, I just posted the poll a couple of minutes ago, we are going to be reading a wintry book. So if you don't know, the Well Read Book Club is dedicated to becoming well-read and well-rounded readers, and so every month we read from a different genre to be well-read readers. And like I said, the genre for November was fantasy, and the genre for December is anything wintry. It's not really a technical official genre, but just anything wintry. And I'm really excited about reading more wintry books. I love reading seasonally. I want to talk to you about the book that I just finished last night, and that was a first reread of Galatea by Madeline Miller. I was really in the mood to read this, especially because in October, on my birthday, Leon and I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and we saw one of my favorite paintings, Pygmalion and Galatea. And it is from Ovid's Metamorphoses. It's the story of Pygmalion, this sculptor, sculpting this beautiful woman. Pygmalion asks Venus, the goddess of love, to bring Galatea to life. And so it's about this sculpture coming to life, but this is a more feminist retelling of that story by Madeline Miller, who wrote Circe and Song of Achilles, and she is such an incredible writer. And so I felt like I was in a bit of a reading rut because I haven't been reading a lot lately, and I wanted to read something that really just piqued my interest, kept me engaged, that was short, and I was looking through my shelves last night before I got into bed. I really love reading before bed, and I saw this and I was like, you know what? I saw the painting last month. I've been thinking about this story concept, and again, magical realism. I love magical realism so much. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick this up and just read it in one sitting before bed, and that is exactly what I did last night. It was such a joy. I love the way that Madeline Miller has adapted this story and how she really gave such an incredible voice to Galatea, because in the original Ovid story, Galatea doesn't have a name and she doesn't really have a voice at all. It's more about Pygmalion's story, and I love this interpretation and I think it's beautifully done. I love the concept of art and inanimate objects coming to life. That's one of the things I'm most passionate about. I love writing and reading about objects which are given personality. I think it's just such an interesting idea. Highly recommend Galatea and Madeline Miller's other works. I have read Circe and Song of Achilles, and they're both incredible. They're very popular for a reason. So highly recommend this one. And I'm really excited. Whenever I'm in a bit of a reading rut or a bit of a slump, which I haven't been this year, 2025 has been my best reading year ever. And I knew at one point I might hit a rut and I might hit a slump. And I think it's just because, like I've been saying, life has been quite busy lately. But I really wanted to read something short and engaging, and Galatea was the perfect thing, and I really feel like I'm getting back into my reading groove, so I'm excited about that, obviously. The other book that I am still currently reading is The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book is taking me forever to read because I've really been wanting to take my time with it. It's very expansive and vast and intricate, and I've been wanting to really soak in the story, and I should have finished this like last month or the month before because we've been reading it for the Game of Tomes book club, but I've just really been enjoying taking my time with it. And then the book that we are going to be reading for the Game of Tomes book club in October, November, December. I haven't started it yet. I think I'm going to start it when I finish The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, because I feel like they're not similar, but they have similar vibes, and I don't want to read them at the same time. So like I said, this is for Game of Tomes for October, November, and December. We have until December to finish it, the end of December to finish it. This is set in Oxford in 1836, and I believe it is a mix of dark academia, fantasy, and magical realism, and I'm very curious about it. I really feel like I'm going to enjoy it. Oxford, 1836, the city of dreaming spires. It is the center of all knowledge and progress in the world, and at its heart is Babel, Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, the tower from which all the power of the empire flows. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Robin Swift thought Babel a paradise until it became a prison. But can a student stand against an empire? I'm very intrigued by this. I've also been listening to a lot of R.F. Kuang's interviews lately. She just came out with another book, Catabasis, and I'm really intrigued by her as an author, so I'm excited to read something by her because I haven't read anything by her yet, so this will be my first, and I'm very intrigued. So looking forward to reading this one soon. One of the books that I put in the poll for the Well Read Book Club for December, for anything wintry, the book that I really want to read with everyone, I bought it in October, and that is Always Remember by Charlie Maxey. This is the author of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and this is the new book that he just came out with following the same characters. And when The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse came out, I think in 2019, I was working at Barnes & Noble, and I gave that book to literally everyone. I love that book so much, and I feel like it's such a universal book. There's so much to take from it. It's kind of an unlinear plot line, just following these characters and the effect that they have on one another and what they teach each other about life and how they're there for one another. And it's just such an incredible work because it's just so unique. And anyway, I really love Charlie Maxey's writing and his illustrations. This book is full of such, first of all, look at those end papers. Are you kidding me? And the whole book is filled with, oops, no way! I had no clue that that was in there. It's a little mole. Oh my gosh, I think it's just a little note card. I'm gonna cry. That's so sweet. I had no clue that was in there. Look at these illustrations. This is one of the choices to read for the Well-Read Book Club, so we will see what everyone votes on. But this is the one that I'm really, really excited to read because I just loved the first book so much. I can't wait to see what Charlie Maxey has done with this one. And this is also the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which is why it looks a little bit different from the other one. I think the normal edition has a light blue, like, cloth binding or spine. It feels wintry because a lot of the illustrations have snow in it, which I feel like would just be perfect to read with everybody. And I also feel like this is such a great book, I think, to close out a year because it's so uplifting and wholesome and beautiful. And yeah, I love those kinds of stories. So anyway, that is a potential. And then another potential choice that I made for the book club is a book that I've been wanting to read for a while. It's in this very large edition, and this is Hans Brinker, or the Silver Skates by Mary Mapes Dodge. I think Emma gave this to me. Yeah, Emma gave it to me for my birthday. I still have her note in here. I believe the author is from Holland. Oh, the first chapter is called Hans and Gretel. I wonder if there's some kind of connection to Hansel and Gretel. It also has some illustrations throughout it as well. Hans Brinker, or the Silver Skates, is a classic children's novel about a poor Dutch family's struggles and triumphs, particularly for siblings Hans and Gretel. After their father is incapacitated in an accident, they rely on their skating skills and a desire to win the annual ice skating race for a prize of silver skates to help their family and earn money for their father's cure. The story explores themes of family, love, perseverance, and Dutch culture. That sounds so interesting. So I really want to read this one. I've been meaning to read it, like I said, for a couple of years now. If you have read this, I would love to know what you think of it. Another book that I put in the poll for December is Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata. Shimamura is tired of the bustling city. He takes the train through the snow to the mountains of the west coast of Japan to meet a geisha he believes he loves. Beautiful and innocent, Kamiko is tightly bound by the rules of a rural geisha and lives a life of servitude and seclusion that is alien to Shimamura. Their love offers no freedom to either of them. Snow Country is both delicate and subtle, reflecting in Kawabata's exact lyrical writing the unspoken love and the understated passion of the young Japanese couple. And he was also winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. So again, I've heard really great things about this book. I think Emma has read it and enjoyed it. I'll have to text her and ask and make sure. But this is also another option. Again, with snow in the title, that's obviously wintry, and then snow is described on the back as well. So I felt like this would be a good wintry read as well. And then the last book that I also put in the poll was Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. That would be a reread for me. I read Ethan Frome a couple of years ago. Well, actually, quite a few years ago, probably 2018 or 2019, and I really enjoyed it at the time, but I would love to reread it because I don't remember a ton about it. I remember the plot twist, I remember, the big events, but I would really like to reread Ethan Frome at some point. So I figured I would put that on the poll, or in the poll as well, for people who want to also reread it, or for people who haven't read it and want to. Let's see who's winning the poll right now. Right now, Snow Country is winning the poll at 36%, and then Ethan Frome has 29%, Hans Brinker has 9%, and Always Remember, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse has 26%, and that is out of 189 votes so far. But I just posted it an hour ago, so we'll see how it changes. I'm very excited to see which book wins. I would be happy with any of them, obviously, which is why I picked them. Moving right along, some other books that I'm thinking about possibly reading. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. This is on my 2025 TBR. I meant to read it in October, and I didn't. I'm really excited and intrigued by Shirley Jackson's writing. I've only read We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I really loved it, and I've been meaning to read more of her work, but I haven't yet. I definitely want to read The Lottery, which is the titular short story, but I'm looking forward to seeing how I feel about Shirley Jackson's other works. So that is that short story collection. Another short story collection that I really want to read before the end of the year because Leon read it and loved it and he really wants me to read it is Hermann Hesse's Strange News from Another Planet. This is a collection of short stories that are very magical and fanciful and fantastic. And like I said, I really love magical realism. A visitor to a zoo discovers he can understand the animals talking, which I wish that I could. I always say that I wish that I could communicate and understand animals. So I love that. A young man turns into a mountain and a bird guides a boy to another planet in this selection of dreamlike and visionary fairy tales from the great German-Swiss master. This sounds fantastic, and I am very much looking forward to reading it. This next book I bought last year, and I started it, but I never finished it. It is A Book for Christmas by Selma Lagerlof, and I started reading it last year, like I said, and I was really enjoying it, but I didn't finish it. I think it's short stories as well. It is translated by Sarah Death, Peter Graves, and Linda Schneck. The first story is A Book for Christmas, which I did read and I really enjoyed. The second is The Legend of St. Lucia's Day, which I also think I read. And then The Princess of Babylon, The Rat Trap, The Nazareth, Redbreast, The Skull, The Animals' New Year's Night, and that is it. So I'm excited to read more of this and see what I think about it. I see, looking at this selection of books, I'm very much in the mood for short stories or short novels, probably because I've been feeling a little ruttish. I've been feeling a little reading ruttish. That sounds like radish. Rut-ish. Slumpy. To no one's surprise, the next book is another story collection, and that is The Penguin Book of Christmas Stories, edited by Jessica Harrison. I got this book from my best friend Anna a couple of years ago, and every year I read more and more of the stories. I haven't finished the book in its entirety, but I work my way through it every Christmas season, and it's been such a joy. And this is from the Penguin Clothbound series, and it has so many incredible stories in here. The first one is one of my favorites, which is Hans Christian Andersen's The Fir Tree, which is such a heartbreaking book. There's also works by Fyodor Dostoevsky, Anton Chekhov, Saki, O. Henry, Dylan Thomas, Frank O'Connor, Langston Hughes, Shirley Jackson. Hers is titled A Visit to the Bank. Then we have Muriel Spark, Truman Capote, Italo Calvino, Tove Jansson, Angela Carter. Yeah, so there are really great authors and stories in here, so I'm looking forward to reading more of the stories from this collection. And then another short novel that I read last year, I want to reread it, and that is Susanna Clarke's The Wood at Midwinter. It is also illustrated, and she's the author of Piranesi and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I really love her writing, and I found this story very intriguing, so wintry, and I just really want to reread it because I enjoyed it that much. So, the back says, it's a quote from the book, "A church is a sort of wood. A wood is a sort of church. They're the same thing, really. 19-year-old Merodis Scott is an unusual girl. She can talk to animals and trees, and she is only ever happy when she is walking in the woods. One snowy afternoon, out with her dogs and Apple the pig, Merodis encounters a blackbird and a fox. As darkness falls, a strange figure appears in their midst, and the path of her life is changed forever. It says from the universe of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, The Wood at Midwinter is an enchanted and enchanting Christmas story from one of the greatest imaginations writing today. So, it's such a great story, and I'm very much looking forward to rereading it. Second to last is from Maggie O'Farrell, who wrote Hamnet and a million other incredible books. Hamnet is one of my favorite books that I read in 2025, and I can't express how excited I am for the new movie adaptation. But anyway, the book that I am talking about right now will be a reread for me, and that is Where Snow Angels Go. This is obviously written by Maggie O'Farrell and illustrated by Daniela Jaglenka Terrazini. I apologize if I'm saying her name incorrectly. This is a beautiful picture book about a main character and their interaction with a snow angel. On the back, there is a quote that says, "Magic," the angel said. "Absolutely not. Do I look like magic to you?" It's absolutely beautiful and very, very wintry. Again, I feel like winter is such a nostalgic, like December especially, is such a nostalgic time, and I really love revisiting my favorite books. Like every December I always read The Night Before Christmas. In the past, I used to read A Christmas Carol every year, but I just sometimes don't have the time to fit all of my rereads in. So I like to switch up my rereads and also discover new reads that will eventually become rereads. But yes, I love the illustrations in this book, and Maggie O'Farrell, I love when authors can write for different age groups and different genres, and like I said about all these other books, this is also magical realism as well. Maggie O'Farrell does magical realism and historical fiction and realism so brilliantly. She's one of my favorite writers who's writing today, and I'm very much looking forward to rereading this one. We have one more book, and it is the third book in a trilogy, and that is The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. This is the third book in the Bear and the Nightingale series. The first book is The Bear and the Nightingale, and the second book is The Girl in the Tower. And the third book is The Winter of the Witch. And because it has winter in the title, I have to read it in the winter time. And this is the whole series is based on Russian folklore, which I adore so much. You guys know, if you don't, I love Russian literature. I love folklore and fairy tales no matter what culture they are from. I just think that there's so much magic and beauty and enchantment in folktales and fairy tales, and so much inspiration to get from those stories. And I love what Catherine Arden has done with this series. When I read The Bear and the Nightingale at the end of 2024, it became one of my all-time favorite books, and I'm sad to eventually finish the series, but I'm also so excited to get back into this world because it's such a gripping, vivid, and captivating world to be in. So very excited about this one, and can't recommend starting this series enough. The Bear and the Nightingale series, the whole thing, or just the first book, is so perfect for the winter time. It is just winter personified, literally, and I love it very much. I'm very excited to read the last book in the series. So that is what I have been reading and what I'm hoping to read by the end of the year or into maybe the beginning of 2026. We shall see how my reading goes, but I hope that you enjoyed hearing about these books. I would love to know what you've been up to. How are you doing? Please let me know how you're doing in the comments, and if you've read any of these, what you think of them. And I would also love to know what your reading plans are for the end of the year, because maybe I'll get inspired and add new books to my TBR, but I hope that maybe you found something here that you want to add to your TBR. So anyway, I am so happy to be back filming videos. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. I appreciate each and every one of you more than I can say, and I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful November, and I will see you very, very soon in another video. And as always, happy reading.